Welcome to Casual Conversations. Today, our first inaugural show. We are honored and pleased to have my main man, Joseph Joey Hutchison of Hutchison Funeral Home, joining us. Thanks for coming, man.
Pleasure's all mine, Mario. Good to see
You.
you.
Casual conversations. We're just gonna kick back, have some light conversations. I want people to know who you are, though, because you and I, we go back so far. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But
Sure.
You're a Detroiter. You know how we identify ourselves. Either you meet somebody from Detroit, either from the west side, the east side,
right?
And what schools did you go to?
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit.
Sure, Mario. So once again, Joe Hutchison, born and raised on the northeast side of Detroit. Grew up on the area of South Mount Conant over in the Pershing area. Went to Cass Tech. Came out in '79.
Ooh.
No, don't.
I'm just
a lot
kidding.
of enemies, Mario. You want people to watch this now. But went to the #1 high school in the city of Detroit, Cass Tech, and then went on to mortuary school at the University of District of Columbia, where I studied mortuary science, and then came on back home where I belong.
Now you went into Wayne State mortuary science, following in the footsteps of your dad.
Exactly. No, I went to University of the District of Columbia.
Okay.
For mortuary school.
Okay.
My brother and my dad went to Wayne, but my sister and I went down to D.C. And then studied down there, where I, of course, pledged our beautiful fraternity.
Yes.
Kappa Alpha Psi, and then came on back home after that.
Right.
Right.
Now, did you always? Your family has been in the funeral business for some time now. Your father was well known, still is well known in the city and throughout the state.
Right.
You guys have serviced lots of families. Mm-hmm. Was this a goal of yours? Is this something you always wanted to do?
Yeah. So what happened, Mario? So really, my initial goal was to go to the Air Force Academy. I wanted to fly, so I studied aviation at Cass. Did all my paperwork to get into the Air Force Academy. Everything was going smooth up until my mother came up to me one day and said, "Joey, you know that your dad and I were getting ready to launch the funeral home." And that was in '79, the year I came out of high school. And so with a little arm twisting and some family pressure, I decided to go ahead and change my plans and go to mortuary school.
Right.
It's funny how things work, because when I look back on it, it was the best decision that I could ever make. I don't have any regrets, and it's been 45 years now.
But you didn't really go into the business, the family, right away. I mean,
Exactly.
you've had so many different career paths.
Exactly.
Police officer,
right. So
flight attendant.
Right. Did it all. So the flight attendant thing came in because I always wanted to fly. I was always interested in airplanes, but I didn't like to serve people. I mean, in terms of on an airplane. What happened, Mario, was that, and is when I applied for the police department. I always wanted to get back to the city, because I had some thoughts in the back of my mind that I may want to run for public office, but I also wanted to go ahead and serve the city.
I didn't know that you wanted to run for public office.
Yeah,
What did you want to run for?
City council, something along the lines like that, because I wanted to go ahead and get back, but I didn't want to just do it and not have something behind me to show that I have served the city in some capacity. I grew up in the South Mount Conant area, as I mentioned earlier, and I grew up not more than 4 blocks from Chief Hart's home.
Okay.
So a lot of the kids in the neighborhood that wanted to apply for the police department, he knew all the kids. So the ones that were the good kids that kept our nose clean, he made a way for us to go ahead and join the force. So once I joined, it was going to take a year, because that was the year that Coleman Young was kind of doing some posturing with city council.
Right.
And so they weren't going to hire for a year.
Right.
So that was why I applied for the airline, just so I can travel for a year and see the world, and then come back and then go ahead and join the force.
When you were with the police department, you excelled so fast, because you were on the executive protection squad at one point, right?
Well, what I did was I did executive protection for the chief when he needed it, but my actual unit that I worked for was called the OCDF Task Force. That was back in the day when we had some drug gangs going on, in terms of White Boy Rick, Timmy Peoples, those type of organizations. It was a joint group between ATF, DEA, Immigrations, and FBI and Detroit Police.
Right.
And so we worked together to kind of help get the streets, halfway cleaned back up. And then, unfortunately, when the indictment came down for Chief Hart, I went to number 10, which was at Livernois and Elmhurst, and I ended up working a booster car there at number 10, and until
number 10 on Livernois. And,
in Elmhurst, yes. And then I worked uniform for a while, then plain clothes, up until I put in my papers to leave after about 9 years of service.
See, this is what we're talking about. People don't know this. They know you. They
Right.
don't know this background, this
Right.
rich background you have.
Well, I appreciate
Now,
it.
here's one for you.
Sure.
So we would go to the same barbershop, Al's Barbershop on Puritan in Maryland, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's this picture on the wall of you and Muhammad Ali.
Yes, sir.
And you worked for Muhammad Ali.
I did. So the story behind Muhammad Ali is there's only been really two athletes that I always looked up to. One was Bill Russell, who was our fraternity brother, and the other one was Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali being the number one person. So when I left the police department, I ended up becoming head of security for the Ritz-Carlton chain. And one day, one of my officers came to the office and said, Joe, I think this is a real call. We got a person saying that they're from Muhammad Ali's camp. So I take the call, and he was coming in town because his son was in a baseball tournament, but he didn't want to stay at the hotel with them because it was going to take the attention away from him. So I said, I would love to be able to take care of him. So they end up pulling in about a week later, and Muhammad gets off the bus, and next thing you know, he's throwing punches and everything at me. So getting back to your story was in regards to the barbershop was that the second day he was in town, his sister-in-law comes to me and says, Joey, she said, are you busy? I was like, of course not. She says, well, Muhammad wants to go get a haircut. Do you mind taking him? I was like, do I mind? Of course not. So I get the SUV together, get some water and fruit in there for him. And I said, okay, so you guys want me to take you out to like Somerset Mall, get a private haircut or something so he could be away from people?
No.
You know what she told me?
Take him to the hood.
Take him where you go get your haircut. I was like, are you sure?
So the guys in the barbershop were just like, you didn't give him a heads up, did you?
I did. I called, but I didn't tell him who it was. I called Bill, and this is at L's Barbershop. I called Bill. I said, Bill, I can't tell you who I'm bringing in, but when I come in the shop, I need you to have your chair open. I never asked you to do that before. And I forgot, Mario, that on the wall, if you remember, there was already a picture of Muhammad on the wall.
Right.
So I pull up, and Muhammad gets out. I walk
next to the Coleman Young picture.
Exactly. And I walk in, and of course, pandemonium broke out because people didn't believe it at first.
Right.
And he gets in, and the first thing he did was throwing punches and taking pictures with everybody. But the thing that I took away from that whole experience with Muhammad Ali was very few times in life you have a chance to meet your hero or somebody that you look up to, that they live up to your expectations. And he far exceeded that.
Wow.
Yeah, far exceeded
That's
that.
a great story.
Yeah, and I have drawings that he made for me.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, and I have down in my little,
Right.
lower level at my home, and I always treasure those memories.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that and those experiences through life and following your parents and what they've done for you, you've raised two wonderful, outstanding children.
And I accept that. Thanks, Mario. So you and I were on the same path in terms of you got married before I did. And then after I got married and we had our two kids, I have Joey, who's now 23, who works in surgery over in New York for Stryker Company. So he's the one responsible for the metal implants that go in. He tells the doctors which ones to use and how to do it. So he's doing amazing. He's finally off the payroll, Mario.
No. But Joey went to, let's talk about, little background there. He's
So
amazing young man.
Well, thank you. So the kids, when we had our kids, my former wife went to Culver Military Academy. I had a chance to experience it with her, and I fell in love with the campus. The academics were unbelievable. The ratio was one professor and one PhD candidate per 8 kids there.
Wow.
So it's called Culver Military Academy. So my wife and I at the time said, look, if these kids have the aptitude, we're sending them to Culver. So we had 12 years to get these kids ready to go away to school. And so Lauren, which is my oldest, Lauren's 25 now. She went to Culver, came out, high GPA, ends up getting a full ride to George Washington University. She just finished law school, and now she's studying for the New York bar exam.
Beautiful.
So she's doing amazing with that. She's working for a law firm out of New York, out of Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Joey is not too far from her. He's in Long Island.
Yeah.
He went to Culver. He was on the rowing team, and ended up getting a full scholarship to row. That's why I tell kids, look, there's all kinds of sports,
something.
man, because mom and dad already paid all this money for
right.
Culver. So he was able to get a full ride, and then he went to University of Delaware on a rowing scholarship, and then he was able to get his job where he's at right now in New York. So
That's great.
mom and dad are very, very happy with the kids.
Good job.
Thank
Good
you
job.
very much. Thank you.
So let's talk some things that folks typically, they know us both,
Right.
but they didn't know we were roommates.
Right. So I get a, folks, this is the real story. I'll keep the clean version. Excuse me. So Mario calls me one day and he says, Joey, I'm looking for a roommate, and I was living next door to you over at River Place.
Right.
And Mario was living in Harbortown.
Right.
And so he said, I have a beautiful apartment down here, and looking for a roommate. And my lease was getting ready to expire, and I was a police officer. So I came over, and next thing you know, you and I are roommates.
Right.
And we're doing.
Well, it was a 2-bedroom. I had taken the wall down and made it a 1-bedroom.
Right.
And
Right, exactly.
Then
I forgot that.
When you moved in, we had to put the wall back up.
Put the wall back up, exactly.
So
end up, we became roommates for what, like 2 years maybe?
Yeah.
And so I remember those chicken taste tests that we would do together.
Right.
Remember?
Contest
we would have. And we would have other folks come in and rate who has the best chicken wings, right?
Right.
But those were the good years,
Yeah,
Mario.
for sure.
We had a little responsibility in terms of not being married at the time, and those were some of the years that we really had fun living together. So it was a good time.
I would say that was about 32 years ago. You know how I know that?
How's that?
Because I've been married for 30 years.
Right.
So it must be 32, 33 years. And Sean and I started dating
I remember
when we were roommates.
Right, exactly. I remember the day you came in and
Yeah,
said,
matter of fact, we did a lot of double dating.
Exactly. We did a lot of double dating, and I remember you walked in, as clear as day, and Mario says, Joe, I just met an amazing young lady. And I was like, yeah, okay, Mario. And then when I had a chance to meet Sean, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And you were just getting your career started.
Right.
In the media and doing the campaigns.
Yes.
In which I worked with you on your first campaign.
Yeah, you did.
For Paula Humphreys.
Right.
And
yeah.
so.
Which was successful.
She won, exactly.
Yeah.
So you were on your way after that. And I do want to take time to tell you congratulations on all your success, Mario.
Appreciate that.
Because I've seen where you started from day one, doing the phone calls with like Mildred Gaddis and people calling you about, what's going on. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing in there in the room talking all this stuff about politics
funny.
and stuff, right?
Right.
And I've seen how your career progressed. And so congratulations on all your success,
Appreciate
Mario.
that, man.
My pleasure.
You're
brother.
a big part of that,
Well, I
helping
appreciate
along the way.
I appreciate that.
So we've had this long, rich history of friendship through, the bonding of the fraternity, through, us being roommates. I've watched you grow in a lot of different ways. I've watched your kids grow. I've seen you, amazing father. Actually, we're at the age now where we're taking care of our parents.
Exactly.
So it's sort of like reversed.
Right.
So I got a funny story to tell you.
Okay.
So when we were roommates, your dad, he came over and said something, whatever. Hey, why don't you guys, work for the funeral home and help me out a little bit?
Right.
Remember that?
Right. I remember. I know you were
And the
going.
next thing I know, I was like, I don't know, this is crazy. I don't know, your funeral home, huh?
Right.
And he had some business cards made up.
Right.
So I had these cards, Mario Morrow Associate or whatever it was, Hutchison Funeral Home. So I was like, wow, I got some business cards. I go Floods, bar and grill where everybody hung out.
Exactly.
I'm passing out, yeah, baby. Here
Right,
you go. Here's a card. She's like, oh, you work for a funeral home.
I got that. Right.
It was like a different experience. I really didn't have an answer for it. But I've seen what you have been able to do, not only with the funeral home, but with the community, especially during COVID.
Right.
I mean, you helped so many people. You've grown into that, being a leader in the community, featured in multiple newspaper articles, handling a lot of high-profile homegoings.
Right.
And I think people have now, because, back then it was,
Right.
Swanson.
Exactly.
It was cold.
Right. We had to carve our own
You
niche,
know,
right?
right.
Somehow,
And everybody had to, but you have excelled in a way that to become one of the most respectable funeral home outlets in the region.
Thank you, Mario.
So congratulations to you. Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with? Anything that you think that they should know about you that I didn't ask you?
No,
Other than the fact that you like clothes and cars. Oh, you travel quite a bit too.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Where was your last trip?
I just got back in from Medellin, Colombia.
Okay.
So I got back in about a week and a half ago.
Nice.
Very nice.
Man,
great weather and
bachelor life, man. Listen, look at you.
for now, to be continued,
Okay.
right.
All right.
But I think anything that, or if I would like to leave anything, it would be really to talk to the kids that are getting ready to get into their career path. I always tell young men and young ladies that when you pick your career or what path you want to go into, don't ever consider how much money you're going to make. Because I found if you use that as a formula, you won't be successful. If you go what you're passionate about and do what you truly love in your heart, the money's going to come. Because what it takes to be successful is putting a lot of hours, like you and I both know. And if you're doing something that you don't have it in your heart to want to do, you won't have the stamina to go ahead and be successful. But when you follow behind your dream and what you really want to do, the money is going to be secondary to you, and it'll come.
My man.
Yes, sir.
Continue to be blessed, man.
You as well, my brother.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks
Appreciate
for being
you,
my
Mario.
first guest.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Much appreciated.
Thank you for joining us. Casual Conversations with Mario Morrow. Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mario.